Hey everyone, pumped that you're tuning in. Have you ever had to prepare a talk before? Maybe it's just a short 5-minute speech or a talk to a large group of people, a presentation, or even just getting up and talking at your staff meeting. For me and my team, we present to thousands of young people every year. And so to connect and engage and communicate to them is a huge part of what we do. And so what we wanted to do is share with you 4 tips that we think will help you to become a better communicator. For me, whenever I begin the process of preparing a talk or a presentation, I begin with questions. I ask myself, what is my relationship with this topic? Have I been inspired by this? Have I wrestled with this? Have I had to work through this or struggle or grapple with it? Have I been inspired by it? It starts with me. And not in a selfish way, but I actually believe that if we have a personal connection with the topic, then everything that we bring across and how we communicate will be coming from a real and authentic place. It's all about being open. The key to being authentic is being vulnerable. We need to be able to invite people into the story. Invite them into your relationship with the topic. Brené Brown says that vulnerability is at the core of meaningful experiences. And so it begins with your relationship with the topic. And from there, be open, be real, be vulnerable. Well, this word is risky. For many of us, the first thought that comes to our mind is the out-of-date father trying so hard to connect with his teenage kids that he uses words like groovy, cool, well that's fat, man. But for me, this word is all about understanding culture or your audience and knowing yourself. But so often we stumble at that first hurdle. We say things like, oh, but they're so much younger than me, they're so much cooler than me, they're smarter than me, they're better than me, they've got it all together compared to me. And so we put it on. We try and be cool, we try and be young and hip, and we very quickly become fake and inauthentic. This next part is important. You need to understand your audience, not try to be them. Whenever you try and be anything other than yourself, you become a tryhard, and you fail in your very quest to be relevant.
Do you actually have something to say? I'm sure you do, so let's talk content. No matter what kind of talk you're preparing for, in the words of Gary Vaynerchuk, content is king. Sometimes a topic can be massive to tackle in such a short space of time, so it's really important to understand what you want your take-home message to be. Keep that thought in the front of your mind as you piece together your content. You want your content to be as engaging as possible, so let's talk about the 5-minute rule. In our presentations, we follow a general rule that every 5 minutes maximum, you should be changing up the way that you present your content. If you've ever seen one of our presentations, you'll notice that we share a story, we might flip over to a video, hit them with some stats and facts, and then we'll run a small group discussion. Even though we're changing up our way of communicating, we're still emphasizing that take-home message and keeping that idea simple and strong. Some things to ask yourself. If they only remember one thing, what do I want that to be? How can I put that one thing into the least amount of words as possible? How can I make sure that my talk is memorable, succinct, and punchy? Finally, track back to those first few thoughts that Matt shared with us. Consider your audience. What engages them? What distracts them or bores them? Use those things to guide your content creation. No matter how good your content is, the impact of your message hinges on you communicating in a succinct and engaging way. Let's talk about speed, dynamics, and pacing. Speed. You can always slow down. Even if you think that speaking fast isn't really an issue for you, you can always slow down. Dynamics. No one wants to be stuck listening to a talk that is monotonous and lackluster. Dynamics are important. So be aware of your tone. Use your speed to build anticipation and leave space for impact and so your audience can process what you've said. Pacing. There should always be purpose to your movement. If you're pacing back and forth, there has to be a reason for it. There's nothing worse than the audience feeling like they're watching a tennis match. Notice those moments where being still could really help to punctuate your point.
So we're going to wrap this whole thing up with some quick fire Q&A. Here we go. This is a really important one, particularly for me where I just don't like to use any notes when I'm talking. And so for me, I like to get all of my thoughts out on paper and then divide it up into a bit of a chart, almost like cue cards. Write them out, learn, speak it out, get it down.
So I guess my process is pretty similar. I write out word for word everything that I'm going to say, and then I'll practice it out loud as many times as possible before I go to present. So my pre-seminar ritual is a little bit funny. I like to share what I'm about to present with anyone and everyone who will listen. If it's in the car with Matt, if it's with someone else in the team, my husband, whoever will listen, I like to run through the script one last time to make sure I've got it down.
And I'm actually the total opposite of that. On the way to a presentation, I like to be nice and quiet. I don't really want to be saying too much. Even at the school, before a talk, I like to be nice and quiet. Sort of get my energy up, ready to perform and present. The actual communicating, the actual presenting doesn't make me nervous, but really the main thought for me is I have this opportunity, I don't want to ruin it. I don't want to get in the way of the message that I feel is just so important for the people to hear. And so I do get a little bit nervous around not using my opportunity as best I can.
For me, my biggest fear is that I'll get up there and the content will completely fall out of my head. I'll go blank, I won't be able to remember any of it. And it's actually happened 1 or 2 times before. So my biggest tip for someone who's new to the game, 2 things. Firstly, send through your content to somebody else. Get their thoughts and their feedback on it. They might pick up some things that you didn't realise you'd included in your script. And then secondly, practice in front of other people. Maybe not everyone you can find, but it's really great to be able to rehearse your content in front of someone else.
For me, it's become a storyteller. Figure out and learn how to tell a story. There's nothing worse than being in an audience and the speaker is just laying on the stats and laying on the information thick and fast. Invite people into your story. Be vulnerable. People love a good story.
So there you have it, our top 4 tips on communicating effectively. We hope that that's been of value to you, and we'll see you in the next one.